Thank you, everybody. It's great to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about our work, talk about our office, particularly because a lot of people don't know about our office because we're relatively new. So I always welcome this opportunity. I'll tell you a little bit about us, and then I'd love to take any questions you might have. So again, my name is Paul Aronsohn, and I do have the longest title in state government. I am New Jersey's Ombudsman for individuals with intellectual or developmental disabilities and their families. You should see this fine print on my business card. It's really small. But it's a position and an office that was born out of the recognition that while there are a lot of resources in New Jersey for children as well as adults, there are a lot of families that fall through the gaps because the system is very complex and it can be overwhelming. And we're talking about lifelong disabilities. And so today you might get through this challenge, but tomorrow you might need help with this challenge. And so folks in the legislature, as well as a lot of family advocates, put together some legislation, and it was adopted by the New Jersey legislature in December of 2017. Governor Christie signed it into law in January 2018, and I was appointed by Governor Murphy. I was actually appointed by Governor Murphy, I think, 5 years ago tomorrow. So tomorrow's our 5th anniversary. And this has really been an experiment. And as I was telling Wendy earlier, I don't think a position like this really exists in other states. There's a couple similar things, but nothing quite like this. The enabling legislation that created our office sort of lists some responsibilities, but we've sort of thrown it into 3 buckets. First and foremost, our job is to help make sure individuals, children, adults, and families get the services and supports that they need and that they deserve. That means we spend about 80% of our time troubleshooting with families. They email us or call us, sometimes connect them to a program. But some families we've been working with for all 5 years because, again, the challenges don't go away. And so we work on big issues, small issues. We just help families navigate the system, which can, again, be very overwhelming, very complex, ever-changing. We talk about the complexity of the system. There are more offices, as you probably know, and more acronyms and more, requirements and paperwork and stuff like that. It's nonstop. And so we try to help families sort of find their way through all that. The second thing we do is because we work so closely with individuals and families, we try to sort of use that experience that we learned from them to sort of inform the larger policy discussions. And what I mean by that is we work very closely one-on-one. So my colleague CJ just came in here. I'll tell you a little bit about him in a minute. But what we try to do is we work very closely with individuals and families, and we try to sort of serve as a nexus, if you will, between the decision makers and those impacted by decisions. Because we work very closely with our colleagues in government, in various government offices. And so we try to bridge the gap. And what we try to do is, again, use the experiences that we learn from families to not only help them, but we try to use it, again, to inform the larger policy discussions. And that leads to the third sort of set of responsibilities, which is very overarching. And that is we work really hard to help make sure that the voice of individuals and that the voice of families is heard, and that it's heard in a meaningful way. Again, not just on issues that directly impact you as a family member, but again, making sure that that point of view is being represented in Trenton when policies are being made, trying to help make sure that families have a seat at the table. And we do that to make it a better system, to make it more accessible, to make it more user-friendly. Because again, there's no better sort of experts, if you will, than the individuals and families sort of living through the system to sort of help us make it a better system. We have an office in Trenton. Originally, they put us in the Department of Community Affairs. I think that was a random decision because they had some free office space. But we've recently moved, and there's 4 of us in the office. I rarely spend time in the office, and I made a decision early on when I first took this job that what we needed was more of a personal touch. And I come from a family, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And so we try to spend as much time as we can working one-on-one with individuals and families. That means we're always on the phone with individuals and families. We're now on video because we all learned to use Zoom and other platforms. But whenever possible, we make it a point of going to the family's home, to sitting with the family, to meeting other family members, to seeing the house, to seeing the challenges, the opportunities. We visit schools, we visit workplaces. And again, doing so not only allows us to help the individual and help the family better and inform the larger policy discussion, but it gives us a perspective that a lot of our colleagues don't get, frankly. Because of their jobs, they're stuck behind desks, they're stuck in meetings. We make it a point of really connecting with families one-on-one. And so we drive all over the state, we go everywhere we can, including here in the Ocean County Library, because we really want to keep it as personal, because we feel that that's the best way we can serve you and we can serve, again, the larger community. There's 4 of us in our office now. 3 of us, the 4th one just started 2 weeks ago. We're really excited about her. 3 of us brought to the job both a mix of both professional experience with disability and personal experience with disability. Myself, professionally, I've been when I was mayor. You heard I've been on different committees. I've been on different worked with different organizations. But most of my experience, most of my knowledge, all of my passion for disability has come from my family experience. I'm a sibling. I had an older sister, Patty, who had developmental disabilities, not autism, don't believe, but she had some cognitive learning disabilities as a child, behavioral issues. Physically, she was a dynamo. She loved to dance. She was very athletic. We used to play softball and baseball together. As she graduated high school, she went to a program at NYU that had a program for special needs students who wanted to work with children. My sister loved babysitting. She loved children, so she wanted to become a teacher's aide. She went through this program. She became a teacher's aide at the United Nations Daycare Center, of all places. And it was great. But in her 20s, her disability started to express itself physically. And she started having trouble walking. She needed a cane. She needed crutches. She needed a walker. Eventually, she needed a wheelchair. And my sister eventually became quadriplegic, needed a feeding tube, a trach, effectively lost the ability to speak, except she always kept some choice words for her younger brother. So through her life as a child and as an adult, I learned so much about disability. And through my mom as her caregiver, when we were children, but even more when we were adults, as Patty lost her independence, I learned what a parent goes through, the struggles, the fears, the concerns, the stress, and it's nonstop. Wanting to advocate for your child, but not wanting to go too far as to sort of, make somebody mad, on the other end of the phone, or, potentially lose those services or supports. So I watched and I learned, and I became very passionate and, it informed my understanding. Our deputy, Christine Bachter, also professional and personal experience. She worked with Autism Speed. She worked with Nanny Mercer. She's an autism mom. She has a young young adult, I think about 24 years old with autism. And CJ, who joined our staff last year, he's got both professional and personal experience with disability. Professionally, he worked with different organizations, including one of the Centers for Independent Living in New Jersey, which are one of the best kept secrets in New Jersey. And CJ has spina bifida. And so that is really important, particularly for such a small office, because we want to be able to connect with people and we speak the same language. And in fact, one of the main reasons that the governor appointed me in the first place was because of the family experience and because I can connect and can speak to families in a language that we can all understand. So our work, as you can imagine, covering the whole state, 3, now 4 of us, children as well as adults, it's a lot. Sometimes it's 7 days. But for us, it's a labor of love because of our professional, but our personal connection to disability. Interestingly, as our office was created to help families, sort of navigate the system and find their way and make sure that they get the services and supports that they need and deserve. As it's evolved over the last 5 years, our place has become an office where people turn more often not when they're in a crisis or when there's a time-sensitive issue of some sort, when the system's just not working for them, when it's failing them. And so we deal with a lot of families who are in distress, in not in a good way, really needing help and needing it now. And one of the things we do is we have to do in our office is an annual report They're on our website if you're ever interested. And we've tried to, since the beginning, use our annual report, not just to be like a normal annual report that organizations do, or tout the accomplishments of the previous year. We really use it to try to tell the story of folks with disabilities and their families, what they're struggling with, what the challenges are. Again, by its very nature, people come to us when something's not right, they can't find something's wrong. So we don't get all the success stories, we don't get in, and there are plenty. There are a lot of folks that are doing really well in our system. But we deal with the folks that are not always. And we try to reflect that in the report. And we try to do it in a way without finger pointing or blaming anybody, but really sort of helping tell the story and just shining a light on some of the issues that need to be addressed and some possible ways for addressing them. We could go into some of the work we do, but I can tell you, one of the things I learned when I took this job, when I first took this job, and again, I come from a family with disability, I've been working disability. I never knew autism until I took this job. And I say that in general, but autism is severe challenging behavior in particular. From the very beginning of my days in this office, it's been an issue, and it's been a dynamic that I've been dealing with, meeting the families across the state who are struggling, children, adults, really having just amazingly difficult time. And the thing that struck me then, and that still strikes me now, two things. One is the prevalence of autism in general, and again, autism with severe challenging behavior in particular, as well as what struck me is the lack of supports and services that don't exist. They just don't exist. And for me, it was a real wake-up call, because I wondered, again, being involved in disability for so many years, both professionally and personally, why did I know this? Why didn't I know the problems of autism, the severe challenging behaviors of this? And it dawned on me early on that probably one of the reasons is because these families are often in crisis. They don't go to restaurants. They don't go on family vacations. They're so focused on taking care of their own, and the rest of us don't see it. And so one of the things I've tried to do in this job, and we try to do in our office, is really shine a light on this. And one of the things we've done in the context of autism is we've been really trying to get the governor's office to set up an interagency committee, if you will, a whole government approach to autism and severe challenging behavior, because it's something that affects individuals and families throughout the span of their life, from early intervention, education, to the Department of Children and Families, as they older, housing, adult services, transportation, public safety. We deal a lot. We work very closely with the Attorney General's office, working with public safety in the intersection between law enforcement and special needs community in general, autism in particular. So we've been trying to sort of really, make the noise, blow the whistle, sound the alarm, trying to get folks to focus on this, because it really is a crisis proportion. The latest numbers we have, from CDC came out recently, 1 in 34. As we all know, in New Jersey, we've had one of the highest prevalence rates, not just in the country, but in the world. It's been 135, 132. It's been around that. But what that means is we work very closely with Autism New Jersey. It's really sort of our go-to organization for us. But what that means is there's about 220,000 New Jerseyans with autism. That includes 60,000 children. And it's estimated that about 30,000 New Jerseyans with autism engage in severe challenging behavior. And I'm sure you all know what that is. It's self-injurious behavior. It's punching yourself in the head, hitting your head against a wall. It's aggression towards others. It's destruction of property. To me, we see this, again, with children, we see this with adults. The system's not working for these folks and their families. And this is what we've spent a lot of time on, which not at the expense of working on other disabilities, because, we help anybody who comes to us, whether it's even a developmental disability or not. But this is what we deal with on a daily basis. These are the emails we get. These are the phone calls. These are the meetings we have. The other thing that we deal with a lot is abuse and neglect, particularly mostly in the adult system, but also in the children's system. It's something that, we again, it's another issue that we're trying to sound the alarm on, get people to focus on. It's not something to talk about much. So this is kind of the work we do. But again, we work with folks, not just on those issues. We work, people, particularly during, the pandemic, families would contact us with their help, having trouble getting unemployment checks. We would help them. We help families on any issue we can possibly help them with across the board. We have the ability to, because of the reach of our office. One of the most important things they did when they created our office is, we're technically housed within the state's Department of Treasury. And the reason they did that, they didn't want to put it in the Department of Human Services or the Department of Children and Families, because the issues that affect folks and families with disability don't just reside in one department. Yes, it's children and families, it's education, it's health, it's transportation, again, it's public safety. So by putting us in transportation, it gives us a system-wide perspective, gives us some independence, and so we can work and help and advocate for families and with families on the whole range of issues that impact their lives. Anyway, thank you very much for coming in. So we have a table. CJ will be at the table in there if you want more information, but don't hesitate to reach out at any time.
Thank you so much.
Support public libraries. Like, share, and subscribe for more great videos.